Coronavirus has certainly created havoc in our society, and the number of positive cases are still surging at a high rate in most countries. But a vaccine is yet to be approved and distributed. Let's discuss about the development, logistics, and economics of distributing a COVID-19 vaccine in today's video of DiscoverZen. As we are all stranded and working from home, we sometimes wonder about the fact, how deadly is the virus? And when will everything become normal? All questions end up asking, when is the vaccine going to be ready, and when is it going to be available to the public? Frankly speaking, no one knows for sure, but after some recent news and referring to the history of pandemics, there are some predictions we can make. First, let's analyze the current situation. As of November 15th, 2020, there are more than 54.4 million people tested positive. Among them, 38 million recovered and over 1.3 million dead. The active cases are over 15 million. Out of these, over 4 million active cases are from the US alone. And looking at the graph, it is safe to assume that we have failed to contain coronavirus as a number of cases per day surging to 3 times more compared to mid-July. Now, let's talk about the development of a vaccine and how they are tested. Vaccines greatly reduce the risk of infection by training the immune system to recognize and fight pathogens such as viruses and bacteria. They generally deliver an immunogen, which is a specific type of antigen that elicits an immune response. This trains the immune system to recognize the pathogen when it is encountered naturally. Currently, there are certain steps in the vaccine development and testing. The first step is preclinical studies. At this stage, the vaccine is tested in animal studies for efficacy and safety, including challenge studies. The next phase, Phase 1, clinical trials. Here, a small group of healthy adults volunteer to receive the vaccine to test for safety. And if Phase 1 is successful, it moves to Phase 2 clinical trial. At this stage, the vaccine is given to people who have characteristics, such as age and physical health, similar to those who the vaccine is intended for. Once Phase 2 is successful, it moves to Phase 3. Here, the vaccine is given to thousands of people tested for efficiency and safety. If it succeeded in this stage, then it will wait for FDA approval. After that, the vaccines move to Phase 4, post-marketing surveillance. Another optional step is human challenge studies. These are the studies in which a vaccine is given followed by a pathogen against which the vaccine is designed to protect. Such trials are uncommon in people as they present considerable ethical challenges. It can typically take 10 to 15 years to bring a vaccine to the public market. The fastest ever in history was the vaccine for mumps, which required 4 years in the 1960s. But in the current scenario for COVID-19, the vaccines are going through preclinical Phase 1 and Phase 2 trials in parallel. And if that shows some positive results, it is being moved to Phase 3 trial immediately. Now let's look at some of the recent news and discoveries on vaccine development. Note that this information tends to change over time, and this is the update as of November 15th, 2020. On November 9th, Pfizer Incorporated and BioNTech SE announced that their mRNA-based vaccine candidate, BNT162b2, has demonstrated evidence of efficacy against COVID-19 in participants without prior evidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection. The Phase 3 clinical trial of this vaccine began on July 27th and has enrolled 43,538 participants, 38,955 of whom have received a second dose of the vaccine candidate as of November 8th, 2020. Preliminary studies show that the vaccine is 90% effective after taking 2 doses. On the other hand, Russia's Sputnik V vaccine has proven to be 92% effective among the group of volunteers who are part of the Phase 3 trials. The trials consist of 20,000 people who got 1 dose of the vaccine and 16,000 who got 2 doses, 14 days apart. Note that these are all still early data for Phase 3 and the results may vary in the future. Now, let's see about the logistical challenges of distributing the vaccine. mRNA technology-based vaccines are labeled as the most fragile vaccine. And that's the reason why health officials are worried about the distribution process. as they need to be stored around minus 70 degrees Celsius. This is because the ultra-low temperature stabilizes the mRNA against degradation. The good news is that Pfizer has said that they will stabilize it at higher temperatures. But the real problem is that they can't do much. mRNA vaccines need cooling. The stabilization temperature can go as high as negative 15 to negative 5 degrees Celsius in the future, but not anytime soon. Shipping one vaccine to one person is not difficult, but shipping 10 billion vaccines to 5 billion people is extremely hard. Distributing 10 or more billion doses of vaccine would be difficult enough even in normal times, but these are far from normal times. As international travel is almost non-existent, currently sitting at more than 90% down, this is the main reason because traditionally, 50% of pharmaceuticals were shipped in the cargo hold of passenger aircraft rather than on dedicated freighters, as this can help them get closer to the final destination faster with limited passenger service. Overall, cargo capacity is down about 30%, but the demand is only about 15% down, meaning there is already a supply crunch. This has led to existing dedicated freighter aircraft being used more, while additional dedicated aircrafts coming into service. But still, due to constrained supply, this led to a dramatic increase in shipping costs. Due to this situation, pharmaceutical manufacturers might have to come up with new techniques to ship their good. And this is the main reason why temperature sensitivity of vaccines and the supply crunch of shipping will constitute one of the greatest challenges of all time. Okay, so let's say we've overcome the logistical challenges. Now, what about the economics of the vaccine? As per the current estimate, a single dose vaccine will cost around $40, and we will most probably need 2 shots of them per person, so $80. But if we store the vaccine in a fairly cold technological lab of some sort, then it will take a lot of overhead, and this will end up adding to the cost of the vaccine, effectively making it twice as expensive or even more. So, can the government subsidize it? Sure, that's a good idea for countries like the US, but that's not exactly practical in countries like India, African nations, and other countries with large population and low economy. Let's take India as an example. India has a population of 1.35 billion people. If India needs 2 billion doses of vaccine, and if we estimate $100 per dose, the Indian government has to spend $200 billion just to purchase the vaccines. And remember that this does not include the cost of storing and distributing the vaccine, which will increase this to a much higher cost for the government. To put this into perspective, the Indian government's income was $31 billion in July 2020, but it spent almost $65 billion in the same month, which means that India's government added $34 billion to its country's debt in a single month. If India's government has to spend $200 billion to purchase the vaccines, it will add 6 to 7 months worth of the government's income to its debt, which will in turn affect the country's economy. This situation is even worse in some African or Southeast Asian countries. So, now that we know vaccines won't be easy to distribute, and for the general public, it won't be available until mid-next year, even in the best case scenario. But what if we never developed a vaccine and the virus stays here forever? What happens if COVID-19 never ends? Well, that sounds like a different topic to speculate and investigate on Discover Zen.